3 days after his crucifixion, Jesus' disciples claimed that they went to the tomb he was buried in and found it empty. Last week I showed how their initial reaction to this news of the discovery of the empty tomb, their doubt, reveals that this story is very credible. To their utter humiliation down through all the ages, these disciples will be known not for their heroic faith that Jesus had somehow conquered the grave, but instead for being completely clueless, thinking that somebody else had moved the body. And this wasn't the most humiliating thing they did. Not only do they doubt that Jesus is risen from the dead when confronted with an empty tomb, they doubt he's risen from the dead when he appears right in front of them. The gospel accounts that describe the initial appearance of Jesus to his closest disciples portray these disciples being completely incredulous. They don't doubt that they're having a vision of Jesus, a visionary experience. What they doubt, though, is that they're seeing Jesus himself risen from the dead. Just as with the empty tomb stories, the embarrassing reaction of the disciples in these accounts points to these accounts as being solidly historical. On top of that, the element of doubt and confusion contained in these stories would have been completely, hugely counterproductive to the church's mission. People would have thought, if Jesus' own disciples weren't sure what they were seeing when he appeared to them, supposedly appeared to them, how can anybody else be? That's why no gospel writer would ever record these stories the way that they're written, unless it's essentially how it happened. Jesus' disciples experienced visions of him that created doubt and confusion. Whatever people made of these experiences back then, visions of the recently deceased were well known. Even though they weren't frequent, the disciples would have been very familiar with them. At the very least, they would have thought that they were possible. So if they saw Jesus appearing to them in what they took as a vision, what they understood as a vision of him, it never would have thrown them off, creating such doubt and confusion. Instead, it might have frightened them, but more likely, it would have brought them great comfort. No matter how vivid or real these visions of the recently deceased seem, nobody back then thought of them as anything more than fleeting mental projections. They didn't think of them as real events. Nobody thought that the person had returned from the dead in some permanent way with a real body. Nobody thought that somebody had actually risen from the dead. In fact, for first century Jews, the resurrection of the body wasn't possible until what they called the end of the age, the end of time, the end of the world, when everybody would be raised at the same time, all at once. So why do the disciples doubt when Jesus first appears to them? Why are they so confused and perplexed? If Jesus had appeared in what they understood to be a mere vision, it wouldn't have thrown them off this way. If it was just a mere vision, it never would have created so much confusion and doubt. And that means that there must be something about the nature of this vision that was throwing them off, that they found completely unbelievable as an individual being resurrected before the end time. In fact, when it came to these visions of the recently deceased, for a first century Jew, resurrection was the one thing that would be most completely impossible, completely impossible. And that means the one thing that could create the reaction we see in the disciples, that could throw them off so badly, the one thing that could throw them off as first century Jews, the way that they are with so much confusion and doubt, is if they were confronted with an appearance that was so physical, they just couldn't believe their eyes. The disciples' doubt strongly suggests that Jesus was appearing to these disciples in a way that they could hardly expect or believe. That he was appearing in a real, tangible body. That he was appearing in an objective way out there in the real world. The disciples' doubt suggests that what they were seeing was no mere vision, but was actually Jesus resurrected from the dead. Do you have any questions or comments that you'd like me to address in future blogs? Go to the Contact EJ page of the Raising Jesus website and leave them there. I would love to hear from you. Also, I truly appreciate all the support that I've gotten. If you haven't liked the Raising Jesus Facebook page, please do that. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that also. But know that I'm so appreciative of all the support that you have given me. Thank you.